Mercantilism is an economic practice that favors building a wealthy and powerful state. Adam Smith, that guy, came up with that term. It describes a system of intertwined politics and economy that bring wealth to the country by decreasing imports and increasing exports. Mercantilism was very popular in France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and England. Mercantilism strives to get a favorable balance of trade that brings in more silver and gold, but also keeps employment high. Shipping was incredibly important during the mercantile era. As countries spread out with colonies, and with the new shipments of gold from the Americas into Europe, controlling the oceans was integral to national power. However, mercantilism brought more military conflict between nations. Each government's primary concern was to maintain enough money to sustain a military to prevent and protect against attacks from outside, and to help with territorial expansion. This territorial expansion brings us to colonization. The big four of colonizing North America were France, Spain, Holland, and Great Britain. As Europe raced to set up camp in the New World, the 16th and 17th century Americas became the world's biggest melting pot for cultures. Sadly, it was also the largest wipeout of indigenous peoples who had never encountered some of the diseases the Europeans brought with them. The mother countries in Europe claimed certain parts of the new continents for themselves and were able to set up more stable trade. For example, the British colonies in North America had access to new plants, like corn and potatoes, which they were able to send back to Britain. Mom, can we have independence? Absolutely not. Colonization was the Kickstarter for the Columbian Exchange, which was the huge transfer of ideas, cultures, agriculture, and human populations. Europe sent their horses, which Native Americans began to use to move throughout the land more easily, and some tribes became nomadic. European mother countries also sent wheat, citrus, and honeybees. The Americas sent back items like avocados, pineapples, corn, and potatoes. Potatoes became a major source of food in Europe, and countries like Ireland began to rely almost completely on them for nutrition. Although many good things were coming from the Columbian Exchange, it is also, unfortunately, the biggest instance of human trafficking and indigenous deaths, with the slave trade coming out of Africa and many diseases were killing off native populations. The transmission of diseases such as smallpox, measles, malaria, typhus, and cholera caused deaths that outnumbered even the Black Death in the 14th century. The Old World settlers looked elsewhere for labor in their new plantations. That elsewhere was Africa. Full of other firsts for the world, the Columbian Exchange also became the first instance of race-based slavery. White explorers and even African elites entered the slave trade, kidnapping and selling millions of Africans and sending them to the Americas. On these slave ships, the people were packed in very tightly, leading to disease and unbreathable air. Once the ships arrived in the New World, the people were auctioned off and condemned to a life of slavery. The slave trade was just one part of the triangular trade system that emerged from colonization and the Columbian Exchange. Triangular trade occurs when a country pays for its imports from one country with the money from its exports to another. Europe exported guns, cloth, iron, and rum to Africa. Africa exported slaves to the Americas, and the Americas then sent tobacco, sugar, and lumber, among other things, to Europe. This maintained a steady stream of imports and exports along with cultural diffusion between the continents. Countries with large collections of colonies, such as Britain, flourished due to being able to achieve this triangular trade even within their own control. Colonies sold raw resources to the mother country for low cost, and the mother country sold them back finished products for a higher price. In most instances, colonies weren't allowed to trade with each other. Practicing mercantilism also proved the efficiency and profits from triangular trade could be used with colonies.